The mother of 3-year-old Elijah Vue pleads not guilty today in court for charges related to the death of her son. 31-year-old Katrina Baur has been in the Manitowoc County Jail since late February, along with her boyfriend, 39-year-old Elijah Vue. Baur is charged with chronic neglect of a child resulting in death. Samantha Cavalli was inside the courtroom for today's proceedings and has a first alert update.
Wednesday's arraignment lasting just over 15 minutes via Zoom, but not before Katrina's lawyer asked for and was granted a bond modification. The defense's request for a modification comes after a ruling earlier this month. Baur's bond was raised to $400,000 cash after new charges related to the death of Baur's son, Elijah Vue. It also included no contact with Elijah Vue and anyone under the age of 18. As we first alerted you, Elijah went missing February 20th from the apartment of Baur's boyfriend, Elijah Vue, in Two Rivers. Elijah's remains were found last month, miles away from Vue's apartment. On Wednesday, defense attorney Amber Gratz asked the judge to allow Baur to see her daughter per a CHIPS order. CHIPS, or Children in Need of Protection and/or Services, gives jurisdiction over children who may have been abused or neglected by their parents or caregivers. The judge granted the bond modification, allowing CHIPS to determine through a future hearing if Baur will be allowed to contact her daughter. That case is separate from the investigation into Elijah's death.
Based on that, then, the court will grant Attorney Gratz's request for contact with Ms. Baur's daughter, only if it's in compliance with the CHIPS order.
The judge set a time limit for both parties to reach a plea deal that could result in no trial for Baur. If this is the route both parties would like to take, a resolution has to be made by December 20th. Reporting in Manitowoc, Samantha Cavalli, Action 2 News.